Hey there everybody and welcome. Today I am going to be presenting a tutorial and sample two-player playthrough of Merv, a new game by designer Fabio Lupiano with art by the illustrious Ian O'Toole. As always, I will be presenting this tutorial using a program that I wrote to play a game that's going to ensure that I don't make any mistakes over the course of the tutorial. And it's also going to let you see everything that's going on in detail. I always mention I write these programs for my own personal enjoyment. I don't make them available to the public due to copyright restrictions. If you like what you see, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out the scores of other board game videos I've created. Actually, before we begin, let me just apologize quickly for not posting much to my board game channel of late. Two of my kids self-quarantined for 2 weeks so that they could have an extended visit over the holidays with us. And with them home, they're still here. One of them taking over my studio space and other distractions. I just haven't had the time to devote to getting things posted online. It doesn't mean I haven't been busy programming. I actually completed programming Merv, the solo game as well. I'll be doing a separate solo video hopefully at some point. Also, I programmed Endless Winter, a game that recently went on Kickstarter that I probably will never get around to videoing. Did some programming for Praga Caput Regni, a Kingdom Rush, other games. I've been busy, just not busy producing. Anyway, in today's sample two-player playthrough, one player is going to be the blue player, the other player the red player. I should mention I'm going to be playing for each player in such a way as to best demonstrate the game and not in any way that is necessarily strategically sound. So the scores for this game are just not going to be representative of what scores for Merv are really going to be like. I'm just going to be playing really poorly. But hopefully, by the time you watch this from beginning to end, or at least skip around using my index in my show notes, you'll have a complete understanding of how the game works. I will say, a lot of people call me and email me and say, hey, I need some ideas for gifts for board game lovers. What do you recommend? This is the game that I am recommending wholeheartedly to a lot of people. This is probably my game of the year easily. I just love this game to pieces. I think it's a sound. I mean, thematically it's lacking, but in all the other ways, it just has so much going for it. I can't say enough good things about this game. The theme, for what it's worth, like I said, there's not much theme here, but it centers around the ancient city of Merv, which was on the Silk Road, linking the east and the west. The game takes place, I guess, just prior to the year 1221, when the Mongols raided the city and destroyed the dam and killed, I don't know, 750,000 people. Truth be told, there aren't too many thematic ties, like I said, in this game. So that's probably the extent of the history lesson you're going to be getting from me today. The city of Merv was an amazing city while it existed. Of course, it no longer exists now. What's left are stone remnants that and tourist spots. In general, during let me get past this setup screen here. So in general, during your turn, more often than not, you're going to be erecting buildings in the city. Each player starts with 9 buildings, and these buildings are going to allow you to collect resource cubes, which in turn you'll use to perform as many as 6 different actions in the game. Now, the resources come in 4 colors. There's blue, or teal, I guess, which is supposedly representing opium, orange, which represents saffron, tan representing coriander, purple representing silk, and finally white representing sugar. The white cubes are wild and can be substituted for any of the other 4 colors. Now, for purposes of this game, because theme is not so strong, The easiest thing to do is just to refer to these cubes as by their color. So I'm just going to be calling these blue, orange, tan, and purple, and white. White, as I said, is wild. The game takes place over 3 years. That's noted down here in the bottom left corner. And the 6 actions in the game include, now this is just general overview before I get into the playthrough and show you the details of how the game works. There's the wall, building the walls to protect the city. This is the city of Merv right here in the center of the board. And one of the main actions is to take these walls and the gates and protect the outskirts of the city of Merv, because the Mongols are going to be attacking at the end of the second and third years, just prior to the scoring. So there's a scoring at the end of each one of these years, but the Mongols don't attack at the end of the first year. So they're just scoring at the end of the first year. At the end of the second year, there's Mongol invasion and then scoring, and the same thing happens at the end of the third year, and then there's some final scoring, and the game ends. The wall action is one of the main actions of the game. You'll be deploying courtiers in the palace. That's going to help you score points during the scoring phase at the end of each of the 3 years. You'll be visiting the library over here, where you'll be able to collect scrolls that lead you to making breakthroughs that early on can provide you with special abilities and later on one-time bonuses. So that's walls and the palace and the library. And beyond those 3 actions, the other 3 actions involve the MOSQUE track over here on the left to the west. Provides all sorts of bonuses as you should climb the 10 steps of the track. There's the marketplace over here to the east, where you see this little map with Merv in the center. It's a source of common and rare goods, which along with scrolls from the library, you're going to use to complete contracts. Contracts are shown over here. And finally, the Caravansary in this section to the right of the board, where you can collect as many as 4 different types of spice cards, and you're going to use those to form them into sets that score points at the end of the game. At the start of the game, you can only hold one type of spice in your hand or in your collection, your face up in your tableau in front of you. You could have multiple cards of that spice, but you can only have one type of spice. As you climb the influence track, when you get your disc on the influence track up to this point, the 4th space, now you can have 2 different types of spices. When you get to the 8th space, you can have 3 different types of spices. And finally, when you get to the 12th space, you can have 4 different types of spices. So that's, again, as the game progresses and you climb the influence track, that's when you're going to be able to form those really generate those different sets and make your Caravansary actions pay off. How do you get up the influence track? Primarily by building walls and deploying soldiers. Both of those generate influence. The favor track pertains to the palace action and the scoring that your couriers generate during the scoring phase that I'll talk more about further when one of the players performs a palace action. Now you're going to notice that in the MOSQUE action over here, in the marketplace, and in the Caravansary at the start of the game after setup in particular, those are an early source of camels. So you're going to see there's camels down here, there's camels over here in the map, and there's camels at the bottom of this Caravansary queue. Camels can be used to access additional spice cards in the Caravansary. They can be used to gain additional goods in the marketplace, to trade in the camel market, which is at the center of the city of Merv, where you can get bonuses. And you can use them to manipulate turn orders. So getting camels early in the game and throughout the game can be extraordinarily helpful. Speaking of turn order, you'll see here that red has randomly been chosen to go first, with blue to follow. Now, I'm going to be playing a two-player game today, and when you're playing two players, there's a third dummy player in the game called the High Courtier that I'm designating as purple. The High Courtier also erects buildings in the city and might collect camels to influence turn order at the end of each round. The use of the High Courtier is the only thing that really differentiates a two-player game from a three- or four-player game. If you ignore the High Courtier and how that works, you'll basically be seeing in this presentation how a normal three- or four-player game works. The High Courtier just adds a third player to make the game more, to fill up the map and create spaces for blocking and so forth. The city of Merv consists of a camel market tile at the center, which happens to be double-sided, and during setup you randomly choose one of the sides. So the camel market tile is surrounded by 24 other randomly placed tiles that make up the city. Now, each of these 24 tiles couples one of the 6 actions in the game with one of the 4 primary resources. So 6 actions in the game, 4 primary resources, blue, orange, tan, and purple. 4 times 6 is 24. That's how you get 24 tiles. Added to that, the camel tile, and you have 25, which makes up this 5x5 tiled city. For example, if we look at the top row here, you'll see that there's a tile here in the top left where you can perform a library action and collect a blue cube. A tile over here where you can perform a wall action and get a purple cube. The MOSQUE action and get an orange cube. Actually, 3 MOSQUE actions up here in the corner. They all just happen to randomly congregate up there. So those are 3 of the 4 MOSQUE actions on the board. There's one other, yep, it's down here. This is the tan one down here. There's some CARAVANSARY actions here. So you can see that this is all randomly generated and makes for an incredibly replayable game. Where these tiles end up changes the scope of the entire game and makes it very, very interesting. So how do you take your turn? Well, first, you're going to choose one of the 5 action slots along the north edge of the city. Once you choose one of these action slots, then you're going to select a building site in that particular column. So I might go here, I might place my meeple here, and then I'm going to choose a building site in this column to activate. If the building site happens to be empty, you're going to be erecting a building there. And it's going to indicate what color resource cube you can generate from that building site, and also will indicate which of the 6 actions you might be able to perform that turn. In addition, if you select the action slot in the center, in the north, you're going to be able to spend a camel if you want, or collect camels from the camel market tile in the center of the board. So that's only if you select the middle action slot. That's round 1. So everybody's going to select one of these. Then we're going to determine turn order for the next round. And then we're going to be selecting action slots along the east and working across in rows. Again, another turn order, round 3. The southern edge will be placing meeples and working with columns. New turn order. And then finally the western edge, again working with rows. And as each round goes by, the more and more buildings are going to be populating the city. Once you're finished with that 4th round, that's the end of the first year. You do that scoring phase, and you start again with the 2nd year at the northern edge, moving around clockwise around the city. So as I mentioned earlier, Camels are an important resource in the game. So let's assume that Red, who's going first here, wants to get her hands on a camel right away. That means she's going to want to aim to perform either a MOSQUE action, where you can get a camel, a marketplace action, where you can get a camel, or a CARAVANSARY action, where you can get a camel. Of those three, let's suppose Red is interested in climbing the MOSQUE track over here and getting some of these bonuses. Every time you reach another step of the 10 steps of the MOSQUE track, you get another bonus of some sort. So let's say Red's interested in doing that, and maybe Red is also interested in visiting the camel market. So to do both the MOSQUE action and visit the camel market, she has to move her meeple from the turn order track and select the action slot here in the center. So let's say Red does that. She has selected an action slot, and now that she's done that, she has to. You'll see that there's one building tile here in this column that supports the MOSQUE action, and that's this one. Down here, there's a CARAVANSARY. Of course, this is the camel market. That's not a valid building site. This is the palace action. This is the wall action. So if Red wants to do the MOSQUE action, this is the building site she has to activate. So by activating this, Red is going to be erecting a building on this building site and collecting an orange cube. The resources you generate are a function of, if you're erecting a building, of how many buildings you have in that column or row, wherever we happen to be in the game. You can also activate a building site that already has a building in it, one of yours or an opponent's. And so in all those cases, the resources that you generate for yourself will vary. And I'll explain how that works as the players activate different building sites. If you do activate an opponent's building site, then the opponent will get something out of it as well. Like I said, we'll address how that works later on. But as more and more buildings populate the city, more and more resources are going to be generating. Obviously, in this first turn, you're going to be only getting one cube out of it. So by activating here, I'm going to collect an orange cube for Red, and then I can potentially perform the MOSQUE action. Now I say potentially perform it because on your turn, after you've selected an action slot and activated a building site and potentially put a building there and potentially generated resources, once you've done that, you can then either perform the action associated with the tile that you activated, in this case the MOSQUE action, or if you want, you can gain a favor on the favor track here on the south edge of the board. I should also say there's an influence track at the top edge of the board. We'll show you how that works as we go along. The other thing you can do on your turn, instead of doing the action, instead of gaining favor, is to deploy a soldier. More often than not, you're going to be just activating a building site and doing that particular action. But there might be occasions where you want to just forego doing the action and just gain a favor, potentially just prior to a scoring phase, for example. There also might be times when you want to just deploy a soldier instead of doing an action or gaining favor, possibly at toward the end of years 2 and 3, just prior to the Mongol invasion, when you want to really protect the city. Soldiers and walls are the two units in this game that protect the city from the Mongols. So then now that Red has chosen an action slot, activated a building site, collected whatever resource she gets out of that, she now is going to determine what action she's going to perform. Now, because Red chose an action slot in the middle, either before she performs her action or after she performs her action, she can visit the camel market. When you visit the camel market, you could spend a camel there to get one of the 4 bonuses that are shown. Or if there are camels that are already in the camel market that have accumulated there, The action in the camel market could be to simply take those camels into your possession. Like I said, having camels is a good thing. Red, of course, doesn't have any camels to spend at the start of the game, and there are no camels in the camel market, so visiting the camel market before her turn accomplishes nothing. So like I said, because Red activated a building site with the MOSQUE action, she can now perform the MOSQUE action, and that is what Red is going to do. If you look at the MOSQUE track, you'll see that you start climbing the track by putting one of your discs in one of these spaces here at the bottom, one of these 4 spaces. If you choose this space, you need to have an orange cube. If you choose this space, you need to have a blue cube, and so forth. If there's a camel in that space, you take the camel and then you put one of your discs down. You're going to have one disc that's potentially going to be dedicated to the MOSQUE track. You can't have more than one of your discs on the MOSQUE track. So you're going to select one of these spaces, and then that's going to dictate the path that you're going to follow up the MOSQUE track. You'll use some of your discs to represent trading posts over here in the marketplace, and one of your discs is used on the scoring track. So discs are not that big of a deal. You also have, you start the game with 8 servant meeples, and those are used either as soldiers when you're deploying soldiers throughout the city, or they're used as courtiers when you're visiting the palace. The fact that Red has an orange cube, and that's the only cube she has, if she's going to perform the MOSQUE action, then by definition, she's going to be putting her disc in this first space, taking the camel, and that's going to be the end of her turn. So by me doing the MOSQUE action, my program is automatically going to recognize that there's only one thing that Red can really do with the MOSQUE track, and it's going to handle the rest. So I'm going to select the MOSQUE track. Red spends her orange cube, puts her disc there, and now Red has a camel in her possession. And now Red is on the MOSQUE track, and she's not going to put another disc on the track. By Red having a disc here, it doesn't mean that other players wouldn't necessarily put their disc there as well to start their climb on the MOSQUE track. But of course, that means that you're not going to get a camel out of it either. So, and getting a camel is one of the big attractions of starting your climb on the MOSQUE track. And in fact, that's the first bonus that you get by getting on the MOSQUE track at all. At this point, Red's going to now need a tan cube to get to the next step, a blue cube to get to the 3rd step, a purple cube to get to the 4th step, and then she'll need pairs of cubes to climb further than that. And now that that action is done, and now that Red has a camel to spend, she can visit the camel market simply because she put her meeple, her master meeple here in the center slot. If she didn't put her master meeple there, then visiting the camel market, be it before her action or after her action, was not something she could have considered doing. One of the benefits of going first, you have that option of getting to that center slot before any other player does. So Red is going to visit the camel market now. She has this camel to spend, and on this side of the camel market, she could do one of 4 things. Red can place a camel here to take any one of the cards from the Caravansary, and if the card she chooses has a camel on it, she can gain that camel. Here, she can gain a scroll from the library. Down here, she can gain a white resource cube, which of course is wild. And here, she can gain 1 favor on the favor track. Let's say Red wouldn't mind having a white resource cube at this point. So she's going to place her camel on this space. The camel's going to stay there, and she's going to get 1 white resource cube as a result. So her camel's moved there now. She no longer has any camels, but now she has 1 white resource cube that she can make use of perhaps in her next turn. Remember, at this point, Red's MOSQUE action is complete, so she couldn't visit the mosque, do the mosque action, then go to the camel market, and then go back to the mosque action and use what the white cube, for example, that you got out of the camel market to then go further up the track. Visiting the camel market is something you do either completely before your action or completely after your action. And you can only do one thing at the camel market. Either you put a camel down and take one of those actions and that's it, or you take all the camels off the camel market into your possession, and that's your camel market action. At this point, Red's turn is over. She's done everything she can possibly do, so she's going to end her turn, and we're going to turn it over to Blue. Now, just like Red, Blue is going to take his meeple and place it in one of the 4 remaining action slots up here along the north edge. Blue cannot choose the action slot that already is occupied by Red's master meeple. Blue has to choose from among the other 4. Blue would also like to gain a camel, so he has decided he wants to take a marketplace action over here. Now, to do that, he has to either place his meeple on the first action slot, because there's a marketplace action here and there's one down here, or he has to place his master meeple on the 5th action slot on the right, because there's a marketplace action here and one here. And that's the extent of it. There's only 4 building sites allotted to each of the 6 different actions. Given that, I think he's going to place his meeple on the 5th action slot, this one on the far right. And if he wants to do a marketplace action, he either has to select this building site where he's going to gain a tan cube, or activate this building site where he's going to get a blue cube. Let's say he's going to activate this building site down here and get a blue cube. Okay, so he's put a building there. He's now only has 8 buildings in his possession. He now has a blue cube. He's either going to now perform a marketplace action, gain favor, or deploy a soldier. He is going to perform the marketplace action. Now, the first thing you do when you're performing a marketplace action is you build a trading post in one of the 8 cities on the map over here. There are 4 inner cities: Samarkand, Balkh, Ray, and Nishapur. And there are 4 outer cities: Kashgar, that's connected to Samarkand, Peshawar, connected to Balkh, Baghdad down here, connected to Ray, and Basra, connected to Nishapur. And the first trading post you erect has to be on one of the 4 inner cities. You cannot build on an outer city until you have a trading post in the corresponding inner city. Building the trading post doesn't cost any resources, but once you build a trading post and you have that part of the marketplace action behind you, what you're really going to be doing then is spending cubes to buy both common goods and potentially rare goods. You get common goods from either one of the 4 inner cities, and you get rare goods by buying a good from one of the 4 outer cities. Blue has a blue cube to spend, and the only place that you can get a common good by spending a blue cube is in Balkh. So obviously that's where she's going to build a trading post. Because there's a camel there, she's going to get the camel. So she puts one of her discs there. She now has a trading post in Balkh. She can't build a trading post there again. That's it. As far as that city is concerned. Now that she's built a trading post, Blue can now, as part of her marketplace action, can now buy potentially 1 good from each of the 8 cities. Now, getting more than 1 good is probably not likely. I mean, you'll be lucky if you get, say, 2 goods, or maybe 3 at the extreme, because obviously you've got to have cubes to spend in order to get those goods. You either get a good from a city where you have a trading post. The other way you can get a good from a city where you don't have a trading post is by using camels. So, for example, if Blue wanted to get a common good from Samarkand, she'd have to take a camel that she happens to have here, that she already just got by deploying her trading post here. She'd have to use this camel, put it here. That gets her a connection from Merv to this city, and would allow her to buy a good from that city, spending an orange cube. If she wanted to buy a rare good from one of the outer cities, for example up here where she didn't have a trading post, she would have to have a connection from Merv to that city. She's got a connection halfway because she's got a trading post in bulk. If she didn't have a trading post here, she'd have to put a camel here and then put a camel here to form a connection from Merv to Peshawar. That would allow him to buy a good from Peshawar. So you either have to have a trading post or you have to have a connection using camels and trading posts that connect that city to the city of Merv at the center. Long-winded explanation, blue only has one blue cube to spend, so she's going to spend it to buy a common good from bulk. What she got was a token that I guess had what looks like grapes on it. There are grapes, there are oranges, there are other things as well, but common goods are common goods. What they have depicted on them, the particular resource, is irrelevant. The fact that it's a blue token is what matters. They're all functionally equivalent. They're all common goods. Rare goods, on the other hand, are going to be this tan or brown in color. So these are common goods. These are rare goods. Again, what's depicted on the actual tile that you collect is irrelevant. Either you have a blue tile that's a common good or you have a brown tile that's a rare good. At this point, blue didn't have any other cubes to spend, so that was the extent of her turn. Now, if she had scrolls and enough goods, she could potentially have fulfilled a contract over here. You have to have scrolls and goods to fulfill what's shown on these contracts. So to fulfill one of these kinds of contracts, you've got to have 2 scrolls and either a common or a rare good to place on it. Now, you can only fulfill one of these 2 contracts if you've reached the space on the influence track that has the number 1 on it. So blue couldn't even fulfill a contract at this point because she hasn't gotten to this point on the influence track. Once she's here, she can fulfill one of these contracts and either gain a favor or deploy a soldier and collect a certain number of points. There's 2 of each of these kinds of contracts. There's 3 of each of these kinds of contracts, what I would call the level 2, where you need to be up to this point in the influence track. You can't fulfill one of those contracts until you're up here. And you can't, there's 4 each of these, again, the top one being worth 12 points. The next one I think is worth 10, and then 8, and then 6. And you can't fulfill one of these contracts until you get to this space on the influence track. Like I said, that was the end of Blue's turn. There's nothing else that she can do. Now we have to, because we're playing a 2-player game, we have to resolve what the High Courtier is going to do. When it's the High Courtier's turn in a 2-player game, 2 things have to happen. First, you have to choose an action slot. Second, you have to choose a building site. The player, the actual human player who went first or earliest in this round, is going to choose the action slot. That's going to be red in this case because red went first. So red's going to choose one of these 3 action slots for the High Courtier, and then blue is going to choose a building site from that particular column. For the High Courtier, red has to choose an action slot, and red is going to put the High Courtier's meeple in this action slot. So the meeple is moved from the turn order queue and placed here. And now the blue player has to select a building site where the High Courtier, the purple player, is going to erect a purple building. If possible, blue has to choose a site that does not have a building on it. Let's say the blue player is going to put the High Courtier's building on, I don't know, let's say on this library action down here. So blue is going to activate this building site for the High Courtier, and the purple building is going to go there. Now it's time to figure out the turn order for the next round. How do you figure out the turn order? Well, you take the meeple, or the player who is furthest from the new turn order queue over here. So that would be purple, and purple is going to go into the third place position in turn order, unless the High Courtier has a camel to spend. Red would then go into the second place position unless red wanted to spend a camel. If red had a camel, she does not. If she did, she could put the camel on the second turn order space and move her meeple instead to the first turn order space so she could go first next round instead of second. That's not an option for her. So at this point, purple's going into 3, red's going into 2, and blue, who happens to be the only player who has a camel, doesn't even have to spend the camel because he's now going to automatically be going first in the next round. So you can spend 1 or more camels to boost your position in the turn order queue. That's one of the key, particularly if you want to go first or want to go earlier than another player in the next round. That's one of the crucial reasons for having to have camels in your possession. In a 3-player game, if your meeple was furthest to the left or furthest north, and you were going to automatically go into the third place position of the queue, you would have to spend a camel and put it there so that you can go second instead. And then if you had another camel, you could put the camel in the second place position. That would allow you to go first instead. When you take a slot in the turn order queue, if there happens to be a camel or 2 in that slot, potentially 3, if you're playing a 4-player game, you take those camels into your possession. Like I said, at this point, purple doesn't have a camel, red doesn't have a camel, so purple's going into the third, red's going to go into the second slot, and blue automatically is going to be first in the next round. So now I'm going to unpause it, and my program's just going to do all that automatically, because nobody has the option to spend camels to improve their position. Once players have camels, my program will stop and say, hey, do you want to spend a camel to go first instead of second, or to go second instead of third, or whatever the case may be. All right, now it's round 2, and blue is going first, and now players are placing their meeples along the right or eastern edge of the city. Let's say blue wants to perform a wall action. In spite of the fact that the Mongols won't be attacking for some time, blue is interested in collecting influence, because blue has already visited the marketplace, has a common good. So once now that she has the common good, once he can collect 2 scrolls, he can fulfill one of these 2 types of contracts, assuming he gets his marker to the second space of the influence track. Performing a wall action is one of the ways you can generate influence for yourself. So that's what blue is going to do at this point. These are the 4 possible action slots that blue could choose in order to perform a wall action. Choosing one of these action slots in the south improves blue chances of going first. Choosing one of these action slots in the north lessens his odds of going first, though he does have a camel, so that he can use that camel if he wanted to improve his turn order position for the coming round. Going first, second, or third in the early rounds is not as big as a deal. It becomes more important as the game proceeds, so that's probably less of an enticement at this point. What is the primary enticement for blue is to build in this particular row. By erecting a building here, blue will not only get a blue cube, but because he also has a blue building in this row over here, he'll get another blue cube. That's what Blue's going to do. So Blue's going to put his meeple there, and because he wants to perform a wall action, he's going to erect a building here. He's going to activate this building site, and that's going to generate 2 blue cubes for him, one for this building and one for this building. So now Blue has 2 cubes to spend. Blue is going to perform a wall action at this point, and when you perform a wall action, you spend cubes to take wall pieces from up here or gate pieces and to deploy them into these different areas surrounding the outer edge of the city. When the Mongols attack, they attack spaces around the outskirts of the city where there are no walls. So if the Mongols attacked here, because there's no wall here, they could attack the 2 building sites that are adjacent to this particular space. So they would be attacking both of these particular building sites. And if they were unprotected, either by a wall or a soldier, they would be sacked. They'd be destroyed, unless you paid the ransom that the Mongols demanded. You'll see how all this works later on when the Mongols attack, when we actually perform an invasion phase. The thing about these building sites is that the Mongols can get to them either through this space or through these spaces down here. So this building, the only way this building is fully protected, for example, well, let's say this one because it's highlighted, the only way this building can be fully protected is if there's a wall here and there's a wall here, or there is a soldier that's been deployed in this building site. That's the only way it can be protected when the Mongols attack. Now, I'm not worried about the Mongols at this point. The Mongols aren't going to be attacking for quite some time, and chances are I'm probably not going to want to protect most of the buildings in the game because I want you to see exactly how they get sacked and how the invasion phase works when we get there. So suffice it to say, I'm not going to be too interested in protecting the buildings in this game, but that's what you're doing when you're building walls and gates. Now the gates are the most, you'll see that walls can be built with 1 or 2 cubes. To build a gate, in order to go to the center space, here, 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 or here, you don't put walls there, you put gates in those spaces. That requires the most number of cubes. Why? Because those buildings only need to have a gate to protect them. So that you have to spend a little more in order to protect them. Because they're in the middle, the only way the Mongols can get at these 2 building sites is by going through this entry point. So Blue can build as many walls and gates around the outside of the city as he could potentially afford. And he's going to collect influence for protecting buildings at a rate of 1 influence if he protects a building of his color, or 2 influence if he's protecting a building of an opponent's color. Now, like I said, he has 2 blue cubes to spend, so he could potentially build both of these walls up here, and that's what he's going to do. He is going to take one of these buildings and he is going to erect it to the right of his 2 buildings here, and that's going to generate 2 influence for him because he gets 1 influence from this building and 1 influence from this building. So he's going to go there, he builds the building, he spends a blue cube because that's what it cost, and he has moved 2 steps on the influence track. And now you can see he's at the point where he can now fulfill a contract, a level 1 contract if he wanted to. Now these buildings are sort of half protected. So Blue is going to deploy this other building and erect it down here to protect this High Courtier building from being sacked by the Mongols, half protected. And he's going to get 2 more influence because it's an opposing building that he's protecting. So he's going to build a wall there, cost him another blue cube. He's gotten another 2 steps on the influence track, so you can see that he's made some significant progress there. Now he can fulfill a level 1 contract And also he can hold 2 different types of spices if he wanted to, once he starts performing a Caravansary action and collecting spice cards. He didn't have a cube left over, so that was effectively the end of his turn, and you can see we moved on to the red player at this point. Red is going to continue her progress on the MOSQUE track. So we see that in order to get to the next step, she needs a tan cube, and to get to the step after that, she needs a blue cube. So she has 1 wild cube at this point that she picked up from the Camel market last turn. So she's hoping that she's going to be able to complete at least 2 more steps of the MOSQUE track by performing a MOSQUE action this turn. So she is going to choose the first action slot to capitalize on the fact that she already has a building in this row, and that building will generate an orange cube for her. Of course, that doesn't help her as far as the MOSQUE track is concerned, but if she builds, let's see, if she builds over here, she will get a blue cube. That will help to get her to the 3rd step. If she goes here, she gets a purple cube. That doesn't help her for these next couple steps at all. So clearly, this is the building site that she is aiming for. And that will generate both a blue and an orange cube for her because of the building over here and the building that she's going to erect here. So she is going to put her meeple here and activate this building site, erect a building, and collect a blue cube and an orange cube. And now she has a blue, an orange, and a white cube to spend for a MOSQUE action. So she is going to perform a MOSQUE action, and she spends automatically her wild cube because she didn't have a tan cube to spend. So she spends her white cube to go to the 2nd space, and the bonus you get from going to the 2nd step of the MOSQUE track is that you can deploy a white upgrade tile to a building site in the city. What a white upgrade tile does is it covers up the space at the bottom of a particular building site from this point going forward. Instead of producing that color, it's instead going to produce a white cube, which is wild and much more flexible. So that's the bonus that red gets from getting to the 2nd step. And there are, as you can see, there's a supply of 6 white upgrade tiles in the game. Plenty to go around in a 2-player game. And red decides to place her white upgrade tile in the site that she just built, up here in the top right-hand corner. So she's going to select this building site, and that tile is going to cover up the bottom here of this building site so that it will now produce a white cube instead of a blue cube. And it also covers up the place where you could potentially deploy a soldier. So now, because there's an upgrade tile on this site, it's off limits for purposes of deploying soldier. Okay. And now red, if she wants to, can climb another step because she has the blue cube that she would have to spend to get to the 3rd step. And she is going to say yes. She's going to spend her blue cube. And that's going to give her 1 advance on the favor track down here. As you progress along the favor track, here you're going to collect a point. Here you're going to collect 2 more points. Here 3 points, and here 4 points. So in a particular year, if you get all the way up the favor track, you could potentially score yourself 10 points. Same holds true for these last 4 spaces of the influence track. Now, as you'll soon see, you spend favor at the end of the year for to use your courtiers in the palace in order to score points during the scoring phase. So you're going to be going up the favor track and then going down the favor track as you spend the favor at the end of each of the years just prior to the scoring phase. But anytime you hit one of these spaces, whether you're hit it for the first time or the second time or the third time, you're going to still collect those points. As you climb the influence track, you never lose influence in the game. You only gain it, so you're only going to be moving to the right on the influence track as opposed to the favor track. Red is going to spend a blue cube to advance another step on the MOSQUE track. She moves up, gains 1 favor, and now she's on the first space of the favor track. She does have a cube left over. She had an orange cube left over. That doesn't help her as far as the next step of the MOSQUE track is concerned. And she can't fulfill a contract. She can't visit the Camel market, so that's effectively the end of her turn. Now we turn it over to the High Courtier. Because blue went before red, blue has to choose an action slot for the High Courtier, and then red will be choosing a building site. Blue is going to choose the middle action slot for the High Courtier. And then red is going to have the High Courtier erect a building on this wall action space. And again, I'm going to pause the game because now every player has completed their turn. Now there are 6 buildings in the city, as you can see. And once again, we have to figure out the turn order for the coming round. Red has no camels, so red is automatically going to go into the 3rd space. The High Courtier has no camels, so is automatically going to go 2nd. And again, blue is automatically going to go 1st. So no camels are being spent or collected as part of this turn order phase is concerned. Blue has taken a marketplace action and a wall action at this point. And while he's interested, I should say, in returning to the marketplace to accumulate some more goods, he is perhaps more interested in getting a contract under his belt now that he's gotten past this point of the influence track. So in order to complete one of these type level 1 contracts, he has the good, but now he needs 2 scrolls. And in order to collect scrolls, you need to perform a library action. So that's what blue wants to do. He wants to head to the library. Now, in order to perform a library action, that means he has to choose this action slot, this one, or this one, because those are the places where the library action happens to be. If he chooses this action slot and erects a blue building, he's going to collect a tan cube and a blue cube, though it will lessen the odds that he'll be able to go 1st next round. Though he does have a camel, he is going to place his meeple in this 2nd action slot, and he is going to choose this building site and generate a blue and a tan cube, a blue cube from this and a tan cube from this. Okay, so he's got a blue cube and a tan cube. And now when you visit the library action, you spend different colored cubes to acquire 1 scroll per cube that you spend. So you could potentially spend 4 cubes at most. For example, it might be a blue cube and a tan cube and maybe 2 white cubes, because remember, white can be anything. And for each one of the cubes that you spend, you get a scroll. So you can get as many as 4 scrolls at once, but you've got to have 4 cubes on hand. And of course, blue only has 2 cubes on hand. Fortunately, they are different colors, so blue can accumulate 2 scrolls. Every time you collect 2 scrolls, another 2 scrolls, up to your first 8, then you can choose a breakthrough. Remember, a breakthrough, as I said earlier in the game, is something that provides you either a special ability or a one-time action that you'll be able to perform. By acquiring 2 scrolls in this one action, blue is going to be able to get his first breakthrough and get a special ability right off the bat. So he's not only collecting 2 scrolls, he's also getting a breakthrough. And not only that, because he has a good and 2 scrolls, he's going to be able to fulfill a contract before his turn is over. Unfortunately, he's not, because he won't have, if he gets those 2 scrolls, he won't have any cubes left over. You have to have a cube in order to acquire fulfill a contract. So he's going to do a library action. He's going to collect 2 scrolls, 1 for each of the cubes that he's going to spend. He's going to spend both of these. And because now he has 2 scrolls, he can choose one of the 4 blue breakthroughs. There's 4 blue breakthroughs that you get for having your first pair. There are 4 red breakthroughs that you can get once you have your second pair of scrolls. Then a yellow breakthrough once you have your third pair, and finally a purple breakthrough once you have your 4th pair. And after you've gotten your 4th pair, then you don't get, if you happen to collect more scrolls, you don't get more breakthroughs. So you're only going to have as many as 4 of these. Now the blues and the reds are special abilities, and the yellows and the purples are one-time abilities. So at this point, the 4 blue breakthroughs that the blue player is choosing from is a single cube discount when performing either a Caravansary action, a MOSQUE action, a marketplace action, or a palace action, a marketplace action, or a MOSQUE action. Because blue has already gone to the marketplace once and probably figures he's going to go to the marketplace a couple more times over the course of the game, he is going to choose the marketplace breakthrough. So now he has that breakthrough tile in his possession, and the other 3 are returned to the stack. So if and when red happens to collect a pair of scrolls, red's only going to be able to choose from the remaining 3 blue breakthroughs. It's now the High Courtier's turn. The High Courtier is going second, and now because blue went earlier in the round, blue is going to choose an action slot for the High Courtier. He's going to choose this first action slot all the way over to the right. He knows the High Courtier doesn't have any camels, so the High Courtier is not going to be going second or first next round. Red has to now choose one of these 3 empty building sites, and he's going to put the High Courtier on this palace building site here in the middle. So the High Courtier erects a building there, and now it's red's turn. So far red has performed 2 MOSQUE actions. If she wanted to perform a third MOSQUE action, she would have to select this center action slot because the other ones are full. And she also knows that she needs purple in order to get to the next step of the track anyway. She's also been hurting for a camel since the start of the game. She had a camel then, but she spent it in the camel market. I think the easiest way for her to get another one would be to head to the marketplace or the caravansary at this point. Obviously, those are the only 2 options available for her at this point to get a camel. To get anywhere in the caravansary, she would really like to have her influence up higher, because right now she's only entitled to have 1 type of spice in her tableau. On the other hand, maybe she wants to go get higher on the influence track so that she could collect more spices and can collect and start fulfilling contracts. So maybe she's going to do a wall action instead. Yeah, I think she's going to do that. So in order to perform a wall action, red has to choose she can't choose here, so she either has to go here or here. Now the advantage of going here is she doesn't have a camel to spend, and she won't get a camel from performing a wall action, but she would be able to visit the camel market just to get this camel back. She's going to go to the middle action slot, and because she wants to do a wall action, she's going to activate this site, and she is therefore going to generate a tan cube and an orange cube, and she'll have 3 cubes in her possession at this point. So she erects a building. She now has 2 orange cubes and a tan cube, and she is going to perform a wall action. So she could potentially erect 3 different walls if she wanted to. She's going to start with a tan wall over here that's going to cost 1 tan cube. And she is going to build it here, protecting Blue's building site up here. That's going to generate 2 influence for her. So she advances 2 steps on the influence track. Now she can potentially complete a level 1 contract. Next, she's going to spend 1 of her orange cubes to build this orange wall. Let's say she puts it here, again protecting Blue's building, and that will generate another 2 influence for red. So now she's tied for Blue on the influence track. Does she want to spend her last cube to build a 3rd wall? I think not. I think she has plans to use that orange cube maybe in her next turn. She's going to stop there, and she is going to visit the camel market. She doesn't have a camel to spend, but she can, at the camel market, she can simply collect all the camels that are there. Currently, there's only 1. So she collects that 1 camel, frees up that space on the camel market, and now red has a camel. And that is that for the 3rd round, and now we have to work out the turn order for the coming round. The High Courtier does not have camels to spend, so purple's going to be going 3rd. However, Blue has the option to spend his 1 camel to go 1st instead of 2nd in the coming round. If he spends the camel, he's going to put the camel here in the 2nd slot and then move his meeple to the 1st slot. And then there's only 1 slot left, so red's going to put her meeple on the 2nd slot, but she'll collect the camel that Blue spent in order to get a better position on the turn order cube coming up in the next round. I think at the moment he's okay with going 2nd, so he is not going to pay the camel, and therefore red is going to go 1st in round 4. And now this is the last round before we have our first scoring phase. Now during the scoring phase, you collect points from 3 different sources potentially. You collect points for each building that you have erected in the city, 1 point per building. And usually, because everybody's sort of building at about the same rate, usually that sort of washes out. Of course, the High Courtier does not accumulate points in a 2-player game. The other source of points is from courtiers that you have deployed in the palace. And the 3rd source of points is from having a scoring tile in your possession. The only way you get a scoring tile is by reaching the 4th step of the MOSQUE track. Nobody has gotten there. Nobody has gotten one of these scoring tiles. Now you can also get points from being at the top of the MOSQUE track, because then you get 4 points for every building you've erected on a MOSQUE building tile, building site. Deploying courtiers is one way to score points. Now, for every courtier that you have in this first purple hall, you get 1 point during the scoring phase for each one of your scrolls. For every courtier you have here, you get 1 point for each spice card you have in your possession. For every courtier you have here in the 3rd hall, you get 1 point for every cube you have in your possession. The scrolls and the cubes can already be used to fulfill contracts that are still in your possession. So you never lose scrolls or cubes over the course of the game. And then finally, here you get, for every courtier you have here, you can score potentially 1 point for every step you've reached on the MOSQUE track. Clearly, that would be, if red wanted to deploy a courier, that would be the hall where she would deploy it. Now, the first space in each hall generates 1 favor for you, so that's another benefit of going to the palace early rather than later. And remember, I referenced this earlier, when it is time for the scoring phase, in order to activate a courier and use it to score points, you have to spend a favor per courier, 1 favor per courier. So if you have 3 couriers deployed, you would have to potentially spend up 3 favor in order to activate all 3 of those couriers. So let's say red happened to have 3 couriers deployed in these 3 spaces over the course of the game. During a scoring phase, red would have to spend 3 favor to activate all 3, in which case she would get 3 points per step on the MOSQUE track. So that could potentially score her as much as 30 points, depending upon where she was on the MOSQUE track. Of course, if she only had 1 favor to spend and she had 3 couriers here, she could only activate 1 of those couriers, and therefore she would only be getting 1 point per step on the MOSQUE track. To deploy a courier in this hall, you have to spend orange cubes. The first courier that you deploy in the palace costs 1 cube, of whether it be orange or tan or blue or purple. The second one costs 2 cubes. Your third courier costs 3 cubes, and so forth. So it gets progressively more expensive and more difficult to deploy couriers as the game goes on. Getting that first courier deployed, however, is easy, and it also gets you a favor. Now, red also already has 1 favor, so she doesn't necessarily need the second favor, but that's fine. She won't lose it. You only spend the favor that you have to in order to activate your couriers during the scoring phase. So red does want to get to the palace before the first scoring phase kicks in. So let's see where she would have to place a meeple. She would have to either take this slot to get one of these building sites, activate one of these building sites, or this slot to activate this building site. We're going to have red choose this action slot in the center, but instead of choosing one of these building sites, red is going to activate one of these building sites where the High Courtier has building. In that case, red's going to get 1 cube for each purple building that's in this row. So red would generate, obviously she wants to perform a palace action, so she would activate this site, but she would get a blue cube and an orange cube by doing so. Now, the High Courtier is not a real player. Normally, the player, if you do activate an opponent's building site, then that player is going to get something out of it. If purple was a real player in the game and red activated this building site, then red would get generate a blue cube and an orange cube for herself, and then purple would get whatever cubes are generated from the building site that red activated, in addition to any other bonus tiles that might be in that particular row. So for example, if red activates this building site, she's going to get a blue cube and an orange cube. If purple was a real human player, purple would get a blue cube out of this. And then let's say if there was one of these white upgrade tiles over here, purple would also get a white cube. And if there was a purple building over here with another type of upgrade tile that generated another cube, she could potentially get that as well. Now, we haven't talked about those upgrade tiles yet. Those are generated when you reach the third step of the MOSQUE track, and they allow you to get a second cube from a building site. But the key is that when you as a player activate an opponent's building site, then that opponent is going to collect a cube for the site that you activated, as well as every other bonus tile, bonus upgrade tile that's been erected in that row or column. Purple isn't really going to get cubes, but red is going to get a blue and an orange by activating this site. I think before visiting the palace, red is going to spend her camel at the camel market. And once again, she is going to generate a white cube for herself. So she's going to put her camel there. And now she's got a blue cube, 2 orange cubes, and a white cube. If she wanted to, she could potentially spend those to deploy 2 courtiers in the orange hall. The first one would cost her 1 orange cube. The second one would cost her 2 orange cubes, but she has a white, so she effectively has 3 orange cubes in her possession. She's definitely going to deploy 1 courtier in this hall, which is going to cost her 1 orange cube, and she's going to get 1 favor out of it. Does she want to go for the second courtier? If she does, like I said, it would cost her the orange cube and the white cube, but it would mean she would now score 2 points for every step she's reached on the MOSQUE track. So that's where it would be worth 6 points to her during the scoring phase rather than 3, because she's on the 3rd step. I think she's going to do that. So she is going to place her second courtier in the 4th hall. That will not generate another favor, but now she's got 2 favor to spend for her 2 courtiers, guaranteeing that she's going to get 2 times 3 or 6 points in the next scoring phase. Okay? And that's all she can do. Next in line is the blue player. Does he want to go to the palace? Oh, no, I think he's going to go to the Caravansary instead. Remember, blue can now have as many as 2 different spice cards in his hand. Blue is going to put his meeple here in the second action slot below red, because there's 2 potential sites here, and blue already has buildings here in this row, so that's a good place to go if you want to erect a building, because that means you're going to generate more cubes. Now, when you visit the Caravansary, you have to spend cubes of the same color. In the library, you have to spend cubes of different colors. In the Caravansary, for every cube you spend of the same color, for any one color, you could potentially take that many cards, 1 card per cube that you spend. You're going to get 2 blue cubes from these 2 slots, from these 2 building sites here. She doesn't have any other cubes, so it really doesn't matter to her whether she goes here or here too much. So he's going to activate the first building site in the row. So he's going to get an orange cube and 2 blue cubes. Because he's got 2 blue cubes, it means he could potentially perform a Caravansary action and take as many as 2 different cards from the Caravansary. That's what he's going to do. Now, when you're taking cards from the Caravansary, you can definitely take a card that has a camel on top of it. In my program, I put the camels to the side, but when you're playing the game, you can either put the camels to the side or on top of the cards. During setup, in a 2-player game, the bottom 2 cards of the queue, or if the queue is horizontal, the rightmost 2 cards of the queue have a camel deployed next to them or on top of them. That means that you can definitely take one of those cards if you wanted to. You can also always take the first card in the queue, the first, I should say, the rightmost card in the queue if they're displayed horizontally, or the bottommost card in the queue in my case, because they're displayed permanently vertically. You can also take the last card in the queue that does not have a camel next to it or on top of it. So for this first card that blue takes, blue could either take this ginger or this juniper or this cinnamon. Now, obviously, blue's going to take one of these because he wants to get a camel out of it. He's going to be able to take the camel because there's a camel on the card or next to the card. And he doesn't have any spices yet, so he's going to just take the ginger and get a camel. Now he has 2 camels and a ginger. And now he could potentially spend another blue cube. He hasn't spent the first one yet, but they'll get spent before the turn's over. Does he want to spend another blue cube in order to take another card? He could either take this juniper and get a camel, or take this cinnamon and not get a camel. Clearly he doesn't have juniper, so he's going to take the juniper just to get the camel benefit. But I should point out that the other thing that happens, so to the extent that you have different spices, you'll get more points at the end of the game for sets. To the extent you collect the same spices, for every pair of the same spice, you get a particular bonus. For the first pair of ginger, you can deploy a soldier. So the bonus is shown over here. For every pair of ginger you collect, you can deploy a soldier. For every pair of juniper you collect, you can advance 1 step on the favor track. That's what this bonus icon here represents. For every pair of cinnamon that you collect, you can gain 1 wild resource cube. And finally, for every pair of pepper that you collect, you can deploy or place one of these white upgrade tiles on a building site in the city. So you get these white upgrade tiles either by having a pair of pepper or by advancing to this second step of the MOSQUE track. I should also point out that the number of cards in the deck are not balanced. There are more cinnamon. I can't remember exactly whether there are 8 cinnamon cards or something like that. But there are fewer pepper. So pepper happens to be a rare spice, and cinnamon happens to be a prevalent spice. I think one of them has 8 cards and one must have 6. I can't remember exactly how it works out. Now, as it happened, more cinnamon. There's 2 cinnamon, there's 2 pepper, but it's harder to get to the pepper. If you wanted to get one of these cards, if you could. So for this second card, remember. Blue could either take the juniper or the cinnamon. You can always take a card with a camel on it, or you could take the last card in the queue that does not have a camel on it. To gain access to additional cards, you have to spend camels. So let's say there was another ginger up here and blue desperately wanted that ginger. Then blue would have to deploy a camel here and deploy a camel here in order to get that ginger. So you spend camels to get further up the queue in the caravansary. At this point, blue is more interested in getting the camel and getting the juniper card. So he will not have a pair of spices. He won't get a bonus out of it, but he's guaranteed to have a set of 2 cards worth 3 points at the end of the game. Only getting better if he comes back to the caravansary and maybe gets some of these cinnamon and some of these pepper. Okay, so that's what he's going to do. Once he's finished, he spends his cubes. So he spent his 2 blue cubes. He gets whatever bonuses he gets. So you don't get the bonuses as you collect these spice cards. You get them at the end of your turn. He does not have a pair of any one spice, so he does not get any bonuses. And then once that's finished, all the cards in the caravansary shift down, and more cards are drawn to fill the spaces. So now the 2 cinnamon that were here have shifted down into the first and second spaces. The pepper has shifted down as well, and the 2 cards that got dealt from the deck were 2 cinnamons that were added up here. Blue's turn is not over yet, because now blue could potentially fulfill a contract. He's got a cube to spend. He's got 2 scrolls and a common good, which is what you need in order to get one of these level 1 contracts. And he has passed or reached the space on the influence track that allows him to fulfill a level 1 contract. And that's what he's going to do. Now, if he fulfills one of these are virtually identical, except for the fact that if he fulfills this, he's going to get 5 points and 1 advance on the favor track. And if he fulfills this contract, he's going to get 5 points. He'll be able to deploy a soldier and potentially collect influence, get more influence. So which one of these is he? Well, he doesn't have any courtiers in the palace, so favor is of less interest to him right now. I think he's going to go for the soldier bonus. So he's going to fulfill this contract. He's going to put 2 of his scrolls, the only 2 scrolls he has, on it. He has to have either a common good or a rare good. He's going to put his common good on it as well. He's going to collect 5 points, and he is going to be able to deploy a soldier. Just because he puts his scrolls on this card doesn't mean he doesn't have those scrolls anymore. He has 2 scrolls still in his possession, so the next 2 scrolls he gets is going to entitle him to a second breakthrough. And he still has that 1 good. So for purposes of collecting breakthroughs or for purposes of scoring in the palace during the scoring phase, you still count all the goods and the scrolls that you spent in order to fulfill contracts. So we'll see how this works. So he's going to select this contract. He has to spend a cube. He only has 1 cube. He's going to spend it. Now he's got the cube, and he puts his 2 scrolls and his common good on the spaces. So he still owns 2 scrolls. He still owns a common good, but they're now committed to this particular contract. He scored 5 points for the contract. Now the next one's worth 3 points, as you can see. Those are the only 2 that are there. So if blue or red fulfills this contract later in the game, that pile's going to be empty. Now blue gets to deploy a soldier for free and collect influence. And again, if you deploy a soldier in a building site protecting one of your buildings, you get 1 influence. If you're protecting an opponent's building, whether a human opponent or the High Courtier, you collect 2 influence. I think for this soldier, I think he's going to deploy a soldier here to protect this High Courtier building. That's going to gain him 2 more influence. Now you can't deploy a soldier in a space where there's an upgrade tile, and you can't deploy a soldier in a space that is already fully protected by walls or a gate. He can deploy a soldier here because this building is only half protected. So he's going to deploy a soldier and get 2 more spaces, 2 more steps on the influence track. So now he could potentially fulfill a level 2 contract if he wanted to at some point later in the game, once he has more scrolls and or goods. As you can see, for these level 1 contracts, you need 2 scrolls and a good. For a level 2 contract, you need a scroll, 1 of each type of good. And for a level 3 contract, you need 1 of each type of good plus a 3rd good of either type. And the higher level contracts obviously are worth more points. Okay, so now it's time for the High Courtier. Red went earlier in the turn order for this round, so red chooses an action slot for the High Courtier. He's going to put the High Courtier here. And then for a building site, blue is going to have the High Courtier erect a building here. Okay, time for the new turn order for the next round. Blue is going to go third unless he wants to spend a camel to go second or 2 camels to go first. He wants to go first next round, so he's going to spend 2 camels. So the first camel is going to go into this space. The next camel is going to go into, the first camel is going to go into this space. The next camel is going to go into this space, and his meatball is going to go into the first space of the queue. Next, red. Does red have any camels? Red does not. So red is automatically going to go third next round, but he's going to get a camel out of it. And then the High Courtier is automatically going to go second next round, but he's going to get a camel out of it as well. So that's the only way that the High Courtier can potentially get camels. So the blue is going to spend a camel to go second instead of third, but not only that, he's going to spend a camel now to go first instead of second. Finally, red goes third and gets a camel, and purple goes second and gets a camel. And then the scoring phase happens. So what happened? So let's review what just happened. Red got a camel, the High Courtier got a camel, and then the scoring phase happened. And what happens during the scoring phase? You get points for scoring tiles. Nobody has any yet. You get points for erected buildings. Blue has 4 erected buildings, and he got 4 points. And you also get points for courtiers. So red spent the 2 favor that he had to activate these 2 courtiers, which generate 2 points in total for every step on the MOSQUE track. 2 times 3 is 6, so red scored 6 points. You don't have a choice. You have to spend at least 1 favor for every courtier that you have in the palace, whether it scores you points or not. And red had 2 couriers, had 2 favor, and he had already gotten a point when he got to this second space on the favor track. So he had 1 point already. I didn't make note of it, but it happened a couple of turns ago. He gets 6 points for his 2 courtiers in the 4th hall. And then finally, he got 3 points for having 3 erected buildings in the city. So that's the end of the first year. We're now at the beginning of the second year in round 5. And it is blue. Blue's going to go first. The High Courtier is going to go second. And red's going to go third. We have shown all the actions at this point, but there's still other things that I do want to demonstrate. Clearly, we want to get to an invasion phase. We're just going to push through right to the end. I'll just try not to spend too much time here making decisions. So let's have blue go here and erect a building down here. So he gets a purple and a blue cube for these 2 buildings. Taking the library action, blue is going to be able to spend a blue and a purple resource to get 2 more scrolls and another breakthrough. So now we're choosing from among the red breakthroughs, and these all allow you to declare once per turn one of these colors to be a wild color for 1 cube spent that turn. He's strong in both blue and orange. Let's have him take the orange breakthrough. So now he can treat 1 orange cube per turn as wild. And now it's the High Courtier's turn. Blue is choosing an action slot. Yeah, blue's going to block this column from red. And red will have the High Courtier build in this site here. Okay, so it's red's turn. We'll have red go to the library. maybe it's time red should get a special ability as well. So we'll have red activate the library, the building in the library here. That means red's going to get a tan cube and a blue cube, and blue is going to get a tan cube. There are no other bonus or upgrades in this column, so that's all blue's going to get out of this. So red is going to take 2 scrolls from the library using a blue and a tan, and is going to get a choice of a breakthrough, and probably the MOSQUE makes the most sense. Yeah, the discount on the MOSQUE. Okay, that's all that red can do, and that's going to be the end of the round. The High Courtier has a camel and is therefore going to spend it and put it in the third action, in the third turn order slot in order to go second. And then red has a camel, so is going to get the option to go first or third in turn order. Now, if red chooses to go third, she'll get a camel. If she goes first, she'll spend a camel, and blue will get 2 camels and will go last. Let's have red do that. So red's going to spend the camel. It goes there, and blue gains 2 camels out of that. But she really wants to get to the MOSQUE, so she's going to go with her strength. It probably means that she's going to go last next round, but she is going to go into the first row here, go to the MOSQUE. Now, is she ready to go back to the MOSQUE? So here she would get a purple, a white, and an orange, or she should go back to the library and get another special ability before going back to the MOSQUE. Let's go back to the library. So library action, and she could take as many as 3 scrolls by spending a blue, an orange, and a white. Yeah, we'll have her take all 3. Of course, she'll get another breakthrough, and we'll have red take the blue discount. Okay, time for the High Courtier. So now red can use the High Courtier to get back at blue. So she will do that. She will put the High Courtier in the 4th action slot. Of course, blue's not surprised by that. Blue will put a High Courtier building in the center. And now it's blue's turn. Probably wants to go back to the marketplace now. All right, so blue will pretty much guarantee that he will go first. He'll go to the 5th action slot and the leftmost column. He gets an orange and a purple. Takes a marketplace action. Now at this point, blue can build a trading post in an inner city again and get another camel, or blue could build a trading post in Peshawar, allowing him to purchase rare goods from Peshawar. Blue is going to need both a common and a rare good if he wants to move into the next level of contract. So we will we will have him build the trading post in Peshawar. Because he was the first player to build there, he is going to get a favor out of it. So blue moved 1 space up on the favor track. And now he could potentially buy a good from Balk and a good from Peshawar, assuming he can afford it. So he has the discount on orange, and he has a purple and a tan. So he can buy 1 common from Balk and 1 rare from Peshawar. So we're going to go to Balk and buy a good using the he has the discount as well. We'll use the discount and not pay any cubes. And now go to Peshawar and spend an orange and a purple and get a rare good. So he's got the scrolls. He's got one of each type of good. He can fulfill a contract. So we'll have him fulfill this contract here for 8 points, and he'll commit one scroll and one of each type of good. He'll have one scroll left over for a future contract potentially, if he decides to go that route. We're finished buying, and we're going to do that and spend a tan cube. And we put a scroll and one of each good on each of the spaces of that contract card. And now the score is 17-10. He gets to deploy another soldier. We haven't been building walls, and we really should start focusing on that. Although I did say I want to show what happens when the Mongols invade, which means we need to keep a number of the buildings exposed. For that matter, probably most of the High Courtier's buildings will get sacked. Of course, the High Courtier never pays a ransom. For this soldier, we'll protect Blue's building here in the corner that has no walls protecting it, and that means one influence for Blue. It's going to be blue, purple, and red for the next round. Well, Blue does have a favor, so maybe Blue should deploy at least one courtier. We'll have Blue go into this column and erect a building here. Gives her 2 orange and a purple. Oh, I kind of miscalculated. So this means Blue's only going to be able to get 1 courtier. Well, I guess that's okay. All right, so we'll take a palace action. So Blue has 4 scrolls. That would be 4 points if we pay the purple. 2 spices, so the scrolls make more sense. Has 1, 2, 3 good, so we'll go into the scrolls area. So that's going to be 1 purple cube, and Blue gains a favor. Now, remember, Blue has a discount on orange, but that's only good for 1 cube, so Blue really only has effectively 1 purple cube and can't deploy another courtier here. For the High Courtier, we'll go here to block red. And there's no place where red can erect a building for the High Courtier, so nothing else happens. And now it's red's turn. Maybe red will build a couple walls. If she really wanted to protect all her buildings, she'd need a wall here and a wall here, a wall here and a wall here. That's 4 walls, a gate and a gate. Or she could have cubes left over to pay ransom. So when a building is about to be sacked, you have the option to pay the cube color to the Mongols to keep them from sacking that building. In the case over here, where there's a white bone upgrade tile, then you could pay a cube of any color as ransom. For this building, the Mongols are not going to charge you twice to keep them, because they could potentially attack from both of these areas here. So when you pay a ransom, you put the cube on the space to mark that you've already paid a ransom for that building, so that you don't have to pay another ransom when you start evaluating the other wall space. Clearly, red can't afford 4 walls. So she would need mostly blue and orange. No, she would need a blue and an orange and a tan and anything else to pay ransom. Let's have her go here. Let's have red build in this marketplace action slot. So that's going to get her a tan and a white cube. And instead of actually performing the marketplace action, she knows she needs she needs 2 favor for these 2 courtiers. So let's get a favor instead of doing a marketplace action. So we'll move into round 8. And again, I don't think anyone has camels, so it's going to again be blue, purple, and red going into the 8th round. Now, if blue were to build walls, of course, blue's not going to be able to build what she needs, but she would need a wall here. She has a wall here, so she needs one wall, she needs a gate, she needs a wall here, and a wall here to protect these buildings. So that's 4 walls and a gate. This building's protected, this building's protected, this building is not protected, so she would need another wall down here. So what's that, about 5 walls and a gate? Currently has 2 orange cubes, which can pay for 1 wall. Let's have blue go here and activate this building site so that he can perform a wall action. He's going to get 2 blue cubes and an orange cube. So now he's got 2 blue and 3 orange. That's going to be able to build 3 walls, I think, but leaving him no cubes for ransom, resulting in what, loss of maybe 2 buildings. He could live with that. So let's do a wall action. Let's use an orange cube to deploy this wall down here. So now all these 3 buildings are all protected at this point. Let's use the 2 blue, and we'll build a wall here to protect this building. So now we've got a wall here and a wall here, so this building's safe. We've got 2 orange left. That will allow blue to pay the ransom for this building and the ransom for this building. So he's basically only going to lose this one over here, because he can't possibly, yeah, I think that makes more sense, because he could build a wall. Building a wall is not going to help, and he can't build a gate. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. All right, so let's stop there. And now for the High Courtier, we'll block red by going here. And red will put a purple building here. So let's have her go into the center. Let's activate purple's building over here. That gets a blue and an orange into red. She can go to the camel market, so we'll have her take the camel. She can pay the ransom at this point, so let's just gain another favor so that she can score for both of these courtiers. Now, for purposes of turn order for the next round, blue has 3 camels. So blue places a camel in the 3rd place slot and the 2nd place slot, so that blue can't screw red again, at least with the High Courtier. Let's pay a camel to go into 2nd place, but red will actually pay a camel and gain a camel, and then purple's going to gain 2 camels out of this. So red's going to put a camel in the 3rd slot and will gain a camel in the 2nd slot, and then purple will pick up the 2 camels from the 3rd slot, going last. So we're going to start up here, and now this is the first open wall slot, and it looks like purple's building's going to get sacked, and red has the option of paying ransom. So do we want to pay a blue cube as ransom? We'll say yes. Purple's building gets sacked. Purple never pays ransom. Purple's building gets sacked there. Now in this slot, again, red has the option to pay ransom, needs to pay orange. We'll do so. Purple's building gets sacked. Now we're going over to here, and red's going to have to pay one of any color. So it could pay blue, tan, or white. And here we'll have red pay a blue cube. And here we'll have red pay a tan cube. And now the two buildings here get sacked. And down here, so remember all these buildings were protected by walls and a soldier in this case. Here red needs to pay tan, has wild, so we'll pay white. Here blue has to pay orange and orange, and loses this building here. And now it's the scoring phase, and you could see that red paid 2 favor to activate her 2 courtiers, and blue paid 1 favor to activate 1 courtier, scored 4 points for her 4 scrolls, 6 points for her 6 buildings. And red paid 2 favor and got 6 points again for MOSQUE Steps. Didn't make any more progress on the MOSQUE that round. And 5 points for 5 erected buildings. So going into the 9th round and the final year, the score is 28-22. So for round 9, we'll have blue take this action slot, and we'll build in the marketplace site and get a purple cube, an orange cube, and an orange cube. Marketplace. Let's build a trading post in Ray. Since we have purple, we can buy the common good there. Gets a camel. Buy a common good from Ray. Okay, let's not use the discount. Let's pay the purple. Then we'll buy the common good from bulk, from bulk up here, and take the discount. And now we have an orange and an orange which can be wild to get a rare good from Baghdad. And doesn't have any cubes left over, so cannot fulfill a contract. We have to get red back to the MOSQUE track, so let's go here. We'll activate this slot here, and that'll get a white and a tan for red. Take a MOSQUE action. Oh, darn it. I took the wrong breakthrough, didn't I? But we're going to give red back the white cube and say she had the breakthrough and just used it as a discount. Now for this bonus, red gets to place one of the 4 colored upgrade tiles in one of her buildings. When she's activating a particular building site, that lets her get an extra cube of a particular color. So let's have her take an extra blue, and anytime she activates this building here. So for this building site, she'll get a blue and a tan. And now red's got a tan and a white cube, which is all she needs to move up. And now she'll be able to get a scoring tile for the next scoring phase. And that means she can get 3 points for every building she has that hasn't been sacked in the last round, for every building she has either on the Caravansary, the library, the marketplace, or the wall. There are multiple sites for wall actions. Let's gamble here and choose the wall scoring tile, which is, she has 1 building on a wall building site, so that's guaranteed 3 points. And if she can get another one of these building sites, that's another 3 points. So let's have her grab the wall building tile. But the blue is choosing now for the High Courtier. We'll take the middle action slot and red will have the building go up on the Caravansary action. We have to get blue back to the Caravansary. Does blue want to pay a camel to go second instead of third? And for that matter, does he want to pay 2 camels to go first instead of third? Let's not spend any camels. Let's say no. The High Courtier did have a camel and spends it, and red gets the camel going second. The High Courtier is going first, and red will send the High Courtier here, and blue will have the building go up here. She really wants to go back to the mosque, so we're going to go here. We'll have red build here. That gets red a blue, an orange, a purple, and a white cube. It's a nice collection of cubes. And that will take a MOSQUE action. Now for this first step, red needs to pay a purple and an orange, and does have it. So we won't use the discount here. We'll let the orange and the purple get paid. And the bonus here is to deploy a soldier. She's getting points for wall buildings. We certainly don't want to lose this wall building, so we'll deploy the soldier down here. For the next step, she needs 2 tans. My program's going to pay a blue and a white. I'm going to assume she'll pay the blue as the wild cube and hold on to the white. So yes, we're going to advance another space. We're going to give red back the white because technically she should be getting a discount. And here she gets to add a courier to the palace for free and score 1 point. Do we send her back to the mosque? Well, I don't know if she's going to be able to get enough favor in order to pay for 3 couriers. We'll go ahead and put the courier in the orange hall, because that's her strength. Blue's turn, we'll let blue go here into the second slot and go back to the Caravansary. So this is going to be a purple, a tan, and a tan. Caravansary action. Now blue's position on the influence track allows him to hold all 4 spices at this point. And he can take 2 cards because he's got 2 tan cubes. I should point out, by the way, that when you perform a marketplace action and you spend camels in order to make a connection to a city, and then he or she can buy a good from that city, then the camels that are spent for those connections are moved to the Caravansary and just populate the cards starting from the bottommost or rightmost card in the queue. Blue has 2 camels, has a ginger and a juniper, and she can take 2 cards. So clearly she can take these 2 cinnamons for free, but she really doesn't want to. So she's going to take 1 cinnamon. And to complete the set of 4, blue needs a pepper and has the 2 camels. So to get to this pepper, blue has to put a camel here and a camel here. And now for the second card, blue can take this pepper card and now has a set of 4 different spices and can fulfill a contract because blue has a purple cube left over. So we'll have blue complete this contract, which requires 1 of each type of good plus 1 of any type of good. Well, blue's got 2 common and 1 rare, so that's enough to fulfill this contract. Blue has the favor he needs for this courier, so we're going to go for the soldier bonus. It's good for 12 points rather. Yeah, blue's going to be blowing out this game here. And for the soldier, we'll protect this building down here. And now for turn order, Red's got 2 camels, and we'll choose to go first. We'll pay the camels. Blue goes last, and purple goes second. Red needs walls, needs favor, and needs MOSQUE steps. But if she goes to the mosque and can get 2 steps out of it, she'll get a favor here and a free wall here. So that probably makes the most sense. Let's have red put her meeple here and activate this slot, gaining a white and a tan. And a blue, rather. So a white, a tan, and a blue. For the first step, she needs 2 blues. Let's take the discount and spend 1 of the white cubes. So, yeah, let's just say blue here, but let's give the blue cube back. And so red, for purposes of the discount, red gained a favor. And now for the next step, needs 2 orange cubes. And we'll spend the wild blue and the white to go for the next step. And now gets to deploy a free wall. And probably should deploy a gate because they're the most expensive. So let's have her take this purple gate and protect this building here in the north. I don't know if she's going to make it to the top step here. It would be nice if she can make it to the top step, because that's good for 4 points for each one of her mosque buildings, assuming they don't get trashed. This one's protected, this one's protected, this one is not. Red will put the High Courtier to block blue here, forcing the High Courtier to build in the center slot, in the center site. And now blue will take the center action slot. Will perform the palace action. So that will get blue an orange and a blue cube. Let's have him take a palace action. And now that he's got 4 of these and needs another favor anyway, let's have him spend 2 cubes here in the blue hall, spending a blue and an orange, gaining a favor, and then go to the camel market and let's just grab another caravan card. And we'll take the cinnamon and a camel. And for that pair of cinnamon, I think just gained a white cube for that pair of cinnamon as the bonus. Going into the last round, I don't think red's got any camels. Does not, so red's going last. Doesn't really make sense for blue, because doesn't make sense for blue to pay a camel here, because blue is going before red, so gets to choose the High Courtier anyway, so will not pay a camel. The High Courtier will go first, and we'll put the High Courtier up here to block red, forcing the building here into the second column. Red's not happy about that at all. For blue's turn, blue will go to the 4th action slot and go back to the caravansary. So we'll build another building, take a caravansary action, can buy up to 4 cards, spending spending a blue, an orange, a purple, and a white. So he'll take the juniper and a camel, which will later give him a favor for the juniper bonus. Take the pepper. Oh, there's no ginger. to be had. We should probably go for the pear of cinnamon to get another white cube, although the cubes don't really matter at this point. But camels can be spent for to break ties, and turn order breaks ties. But I don't think we're going to need to break a tie here at the end of the game. So let's have blue just, what the heck, just spend a camel and take the 2 cinnamon and get another white cube for the pear of cinnamon, although, and can't spend it. But for the pair of juniper, the pair of juniper gets blue a favor, and for the pair of pepper, blue gets to place a white upgrade tile. Again, won't get the benefit of it. Doesn't really matter, I'll stick it down there. So for red's final action, can red even take? Red has a tan cube, gets a discount, so red would need a purple cube to get to the last step of the MOSQUE. Would have to go down here and would get 2 tan cubes if she built there. 3 tan cubes don't get her to the last step, even with the discount. That's a bummer. If red did get to the last step and did build here, that would be good for 16 points. 4, 4, 4. Well, again, this building is going to get sacked, and this building is going to get sacked, so it's actually only good for 8 points. So maybe red shouldn't be so focused on that. Well, he would have the tan cube and the tan cube to pay. It's it would have been nice to get to the last step of the MOSQUE track, just to give red some kind of fighting chance, but it came down to 1 cube. So instead, he's going to take the benefit, get the benefit of his wall scoring tile, and aim to build a building here. So we'll have go into the red. We'll go into the center slot. We'll build a building here, and instead of, since this building is worth 3 points, instead of doing a wall action, we'll use the cubes we have for ransom purposes, and we'll just deploy a soldier to protect this building site. And red could go to the camel market. Is there any benefit? Well, turn order does break ties, so we'll have red take the camel from. Let's see. Red could spend. Red doesn't have a camel, so red will take the camel from the camel market. Would have been nice if red could pick up another scroll here for another breakthrough. And turn order does break ties, so blue has a camel and will spend it for 2nd place. And red has a camel and will spend it for 1st place, but red doesn't have to worry about breaking a tie here. Camels are not worth anything, so you might as well spend all your camels. So here red loses a building because what does red have in the way of cubes? Has an orange and a tan. Didn't have a blue to pay the ransom. Blue will pay the purple cube here. Blue has a purple cube. Here, building goes, and blue has a wild cube, so can salvage that building. Blue doesn't have any scoring tiles, so he doesn't care which buildings he salvages at this point. He just wants to salvage as many as he can. Over here, red will pay the orange cube. Well, can pay an orange or a tan. Needs a tan there, so we'll pay an orange cube. We'll pay a tan cube there. Oh, wait. Yeah, her wall buildings are protected, so it doesn't really matter which building she protects. She's going to lose that one. Blue is going to lose that one. Purple loses that one. Blue loses that building. Purple loses that building. Blue. So you can see that how important walls are in the end. Final scoring phase. I do think it's going to be a blowout. Yeah, it looks like 78 to 48. So let's take a look at the final scoring. Scoring phase, first of all, blue spent 2 favor and got 4 points. For this courtier, got 4 points for 4 scrolls. And for this courtier, got 9 points for 9 caravan cards. Got 6 points for 6 buildings. Red only had 1 favor to spend, so only got 1 courtier's worth for these 9 steps and gets 9 points for that courtier. From the MOSQUE track, gets 5 points for 5 erected buildings and had the 2 buildings on the wall, so for her wall scoring tile, she gets 2 times 3 or 6 points, making the score 60 to 48 at that point. But then blue has 1 complete set of caravan cards worth 10 points, a set of 3 worth 6 points, and 1 spice card left over, 2 spice cards left over were worth 2 points. So let's take a look at that again. So here's 1 complete set of and then 1 other complete, has 1 complete set, then doesn't have a ginger, has a set of 3, cinnamon, juniper, and pepper. And then after that has 2 cinnamon left over worth 2 points, 1 point each, bringing us to a final score of 78 to 48. Like I said, for me, this is game of the year. It also has a very interesting set of solo rules. And like I said, hopefully I'll be able to put together a video demonstrating how that works. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you would. Check out some of my other videos. Appreciate your watching today. Bye-bye.